346 day to maturity bills. Total transaction value closed at 181.62 billion naira in 685 deals. Our property market financing in Nigeria is relying less on bank facilities as a result of the high interest rate regime. In a bid to source funding through alternative means, investors are now leveraging the debt capital market through the introduction of mortgage warehouse commercial papers set to be quoted on the FMDQ OTC Securities Exchange. The chief executive of the FMDQ, Mr. Bola Onadele, explains the model in an interview with Channel's television business producer, Temple Ashaju.
It's a mortgage warehouse funding facility, which is a commercial paper, essentially, which is why it's being quoted on FMDQ. It's a commercial paper. FMDQ has introduced a credible market where commercial papers are quoted, and there's a lot of due diligence going on that. It's not the sort of commercial paper we had in the past, which central bank frowned over. This commercial paper market is now credible. All the activities of issuers are on the website under our quotation service, so people can see. There's been no default since we started, but if there's any default, the world will see it because the name of the issuer will be listed under the red color to show that there was a default. But with the sort of structure and due diligence the investment bankers are putting to this, and also the commercial banks, there's been no default. It's credible, and that's the sort of market that the central bank had wanted us to build in the past.
Mortgage warehouse is a product that is coming on the FMDQ OTC Securities Exchange. What does this mean for investors?
This is essentially to ensure that mortgages get created. So it's not a real estate, development funding that's being created. At the moment, the mortgage banks do not have liquidity to create mortgages, and then there are no mortgages being taken to the NMRC, the Nigerian Mortgage Refinancing Company, to refinance. So what this has done is, instead of the pool of funds which are with the banking sector, and they're not, devoting a lot of credit to mortgages, this entity comes to the debt capital market to issue commercial paper, and those funds realized are used to create mortgages. The mortgages are then sold to NMRC, and when MRC buys the mortgages, the cash is used to pay down the commercial papers. So that's a simple model that's been created.
The NMRC is currently found on the FMDQ OTC, and here we are again with another security that has real estate as an underlying asset. What is the difference between these two securities?
So the NMRC issued a bond, and it was a long-term bond, about 15 years, because mortgages are long-term assets. So NMRC is the one that needs to issue to the capital market, and it issues bonds. This is commercial paper. So for the short end of it, the mortgages are created on this money and are sold to NMRC, who's going to hold them for long term. When NMRC buys it, it returns cash to this entity. The mortgage banks can create new mortgages. What do? They take the mortgages to NMRC, and NMRC buys this off them. So the mortgage banks don't need to hold mortgages for long. They just need to package it, season it for some time, 6 months minimum, and in 9 months sell it over to NMRC. That's how it works.
How suitable is the mortgage warehouse CP for pension fund assets in Nigeria?
It gives the pension industry opportunity to be part of infrastructure development in Nigeria. They can buy the commercial paper, and when NMRC issues bonds, they can buy bonds as well. What are the underlying assets? Real estate, mortgages. Nigerians have opportunity to own their own homes, and that is the focus, and that's why FMDQ is highly passionate about this, supporting the agenda of the federal government and supporting the interest of Nigerians to ensure that Nigerians own their own homes.
We're beginning to see more derivatives in the Nigerian capital market. What's the outlook for 2018 in terms of the derivatives market?
Derivatives will come in when we start hedging interest rates, plain vanilla derivatives, so people do not confuse this with any risky instrument. People need to hedge as interest rates go up or come down depending on the side of the scale they are. If you're an investor, you're worried about interest rates dropping. If you're a borrower, you're worried about interest rates going up. So people need to hedge to sort of neutralize the risk that they carry. For us in FMDQ, we believe we need to focus on developing that market, and it's going to be by education. People need to know the risk they carry, and they need to understand how to hedge the risk. We would like to devote 2018 in educating the market, institutional investors, regulators, financial services regulators, to allow entities to hedge, and even individuals for them to understand what hedging is all about. The issue of central clearing, FMDQ will also look at that space to ensure that there's central clearing activity going into next year.
Now, the capital market seems to be the last resort for investors as interest rates in the banking sector remains on the high side. With housing deficit at about 18 million and counting, real estate investors are considering going public in order to raise capital to meet this demand.
Say that a lot of things are working for Nigeria. Number one, we are an emerging market, meaning the country, the economy of the nation is just growing, and that is a lot of opportunities for the businesses in Nigeria and even the foreign businesses to come in. And in all the fora, anywhere you go, everybody talks about the huge opportunity in the economy. You look at it from the demography, you look at the GDP, just look at, is it the deficit you're looking at, the housing deficit that we have is quite a good opportunity. By year 2050, Nigeria is going to be the third largest population in the world. So all of this will translate to what? It's going to translate into a lot of opportunity, and this is the best time to take a position.
After the break, we'll look at the latest on the commodities market. Do stay with us.